Other reason we borrow money is because when I borrow money, now this is now when I talk about borrowing money now I'm talking about a different kind of debt. I'm talking about consumer debt, credit card debt. Why do rich people use credit cards when we have cash? Why would I use a credit card when I have cash? That doesn't make any sense. Why do we use credit cards? The reason we use credit cards is because credit cards have these things called points. Now, what are points? Points are a fancy word for dollars. Points are a fancy word for dollars. What does that mean? Points are a fancy word for dollars. So I'm going to look at it now. I know that in the last 30 days, so I paid my American Express card off last month, okay? I paid it off last month, and the month before that, and the month before that, and the month before that. Oh, and the month before that. Okay, just want to make sure you understand. So I literally, right now, have a balance on my American Express card of $141,396.32 that I spent in the last 30 days on my American Express Business Platinum. But some of you say, well, why did you do that? And I'm going to pay it off. And it's due on the 22nd. I'm going to pay it off before the 22nd. You say, well, why would you borrow that much money? Here's why. Because they give me these things called points. And I use my points all the time. Right now, just on that card, I have 3,414,000 points. How much is that? $34,000. I can go on Amazon and buy $34,000 of whatever I need for my business, and it costs me zero because I use points instead of cash. You have a Marriott card. You put points on your Marriott card. You can go stay in a suite that would cost you $16,000 for free. Rich people, we borrow money because it makes us money. If I would have spent that same money, if I would have spent that $141,000 by writing checks or by putting it on a debit card, I would have earned no points. But if I earn 2.5 points, and I don't know if it's 2.5 points or whatever it is, it might be 1.75, depending on what. Let's just say I earn 1.75 points on $141,000. How much money did I make? And you're saying, but you didn't make it, Myron. Okay, I'm gonna let you believe that. Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you. When I borrow that money on my American Express card and they charge me a fee, I get a tax deduction for that fee. And because everything that I bought on my American Express card is for my business, I get a tax deduction on the whole $141,000. Okay, you are tracking. But if I say, well, you know what, Myron? Let's take that $141,000. We'll just make it even $141,000 times 1.7%. I made $200. That made me $239. You say, but it's only $239, right? That's the difference between how rich people think and how poor people think. So you think it's only $239. I think it's only another $239. Are y'all tracking? Now, the other reason we borrow money is sometimes we borrow money as income. What does that mean when you borrow money as income? If I own a real estate property, I can borrow against the equity of that property. I can use that equity as cash, and I pay zero tax on it. Say, but don't you have to pay it back? I do. But the tenants who rent the property pay off the debt. Wait, so you're telling me that you can borrow money, use it as tax-free income, and somebody else pays it off? Yes. And every time I borrow to buy real estate, I get appreciation. What does that mean? The property that you bought becomes worth more over time. Why? Because the money in your pocket becomes worth less over time. So the house that I bought in 2016 that I live in right now, that house that I bought in 2016 for $405,000, if I wanted to sell it right now, but I'm not really interested in selling assets, but if I wanted to sell it right now, I could sell it for over $1 million. Which means the money that I paid in mortgage payments over the last 2016, 8 years, I get that back and a whole bunch more. if I wanted to sell it. But I don't want to sell it. Why? It's an asset. Why would I want to sell it? I can borrow against it. And I can use the money that I borrow against it as income. Oh, by the way, I didn't even tell you the best part. I can rent that house to my business. And I can use it as a podcast studio. And I can use it as a YouTube set. And I can build a YouTube channel, and the YouTube channel makes enough money to pay the rent to me, which I use to pay the mortgage, and it just becomes a cash machine. It becomes a perpetual cash machine. Are y'all seeing poor people are afraid of debt. Middle-class people are used by debt. Rich people, we use debt to create wealth. So we borrow as income. We use debt as income. Borrow as income. It changes the game. But poor people are afraid to, but how much are the payments? Stop asking how much stuff costs and start asking how much is stuff worth. It'll change the game for you. It changed the game for me.